Hi, and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. My name is Karan Jain. I'm the founder and CEO of NayaOne. We're a secure vendor evaluation layer that's working with some of the largest enterprises in their AI adoption journey. I'm very excited to be joined by Sanjay Sankolli, Chief Architect for AI and Data at the Truist Bank. Where are you seeing AI genuinely starting to move the needle? Where are you seeing the early signs of success?
Yeah, the wins are mostly in augmentation and workflow acceleration, Karan, and not autonomous decision making. And if you really if you dissect our entire organization, be it insurance, be it finance, into your front office, middle office, and back office functions, you do see significant wins in front office under customer service deflection and augmentation opportunities, predictive servicing and retention, underwriting augmentation. In all of these opportunities, there's a common theme. You're looking at decision augmentation and workflow acceleration. And there's a significant gains here. And around middle office, it would be around fraud detection refinements, KYC and AML alert dispositions, claims processing and triage. These were traditionally, to a large extent, achieved by your traditional robotic process automations or some workflow automations, but driving generative AI technologies in there and creating agentic workflows where now you can understand the organization context, augment the decisions, and based on that, you can plan and act on it to an extent, right, with human in the loop validation, so to speak. So that gives you that workflow acceleration. Similarly, in back office, you're looking at your document intelligence. Most of your information is buried in these documents, either as images or unstructured data. The amount of acceleration we get extracting that information, putting that into some structured assets, now it becomes much more accessible for further decision augmentation using some of these new techniques. Intelligent process automation, there's a lot to be said about that. So many opportunities in back office around that. But the key that we are seeing, Karan, is DevX and developer productivity. It's an horizontal enabler across an enterprise. And I can guarantee you the wins there are pretty significant, if you will. So there's quite a lot of renewed interest in looking at it, right?
I like it. So I would agree. We're seeing a ton in developer experience and productivity as well. And I can see why I would agree with you. But I like your point how you said it's the horizontal capability that's going to help and impact positively across the organization. One of the things I was thinking through as you were saying, as you were, are you seeing any? How would you split it between back office, the middle office, front office, and in my mind, that kind of bring it bottom line or top line.
Yes.
Do you have a view? How do you see? What are you seeing?
Yeah, most of the AI initiatives right now, Karan, are principally driven by your bottom line efficiency gains, right? The regulatory pressure and looking at top line, adding this into your top line growth targets are pretty significant. That uncertainty around that. As the organizational muscle, we build an organizational muscle that's actually built to trust the outputs coming out of that. But there's a lot that goes into creating that trusted output, if you will. Once you get that right, and there's a level of confidence established within the organization, you will actually see it positively being leveraged for the top line growth as well. I mean, you do see some augmentation that actually aids in it, but that principally is not the motivation right now, at least based on what I've seen so far, Karan. What do you see?
Same. So we're seeing it going from back office to middle office.
Yeah, correct.
And we're seeing early signs of front office, which is specifically around cross-selling opportunities. But you can that's still a middle office enabling front office or digital channels. And the second one we're seeing is in the wealth area. So augmenting or but the end user there is the now RM or the broker rather than the end customer just yet. But we are seeing a shift. So I would say in the last 18 months, there would be no top line discussion. Now we're starting to see some top line discussions. I don't know if we'll actually start seeing anything by the end of 2026, on top line, but I think this year will probably, as to your point, as the organizations build that muscle, that level of comfort, and the regulators start to get a view, I think we'll kind of be ready
I think
later
so.
this
Yeah.
year, early next year. Great. And then from from the journey you've been on around the data transformation into the AI transformation, your experience, like what data platform architecture limitations you think constrain the financial institutions the most when they're trying to deliver AI at scale? And I think everyone's on a journey, so not everyone's at, regardless of the headlines. I think most people are not AI at scale yet. But what's your perspective where data and architecture platform limitations
Yeah.
are tripping or could trip?
So yeah, I've seen data and platform architectures across capital markets, payments, money transfer, and banking industry. And these are shaped, data and platform architectures are heavily shaped by decades of their M&As, regulatory patchwork, project by project decisions. In fact, you can actually trace some of
Yeah.
these siloed infrastructure that you actually get visibility to, and you can trace it to, okay, this is when we did this M&A, this is when we initiated this critical project, this was some patchwork we did in response to some regulatory query or regulatory evolutions, if you will. So it's never by a coherent design for analytical and AI workloads. It's never that design that actually is limiting, but it's just this the footprint that these initiatives like M&A, regulatory patchworks, project by project decisions leave on our entire infrastructure, leaving them so siloed and fragmented. When I do call them, it's you have automated for sure, but you automated so much, you've created so many automated islands, if you will. So all of your organizational context and intelligence is buried in these islands of automation, right?
Mm.
And it's so difficult to harness an effective organizational context out of it. So, and it's principally fueled by your data fragmentations, and data fragmentations could be as a result of your legacy core systems. Your data is locked there. So the data is actually treated there as a project asset rather than an enterprise asset. So it gets actually locked in that silo. It's difficult to harness anything out of it, right? And then even if you're able to harness things out of it, right? This kind of, you can only imagine what this patchwork and these silos do to
Yeah.
your data
And the
quality and lineage.
resources required. Yeah.
Exactly. And the high fidelity that's needed to actually drive significant amount of high quality decision augmentation is just a dream, so to speak, if you're actually dealing with this kind of an infrastructure. And then there is this expectation of real time versus batch. Most of the setup is optimized for batch. Real time is relatively new for a lot of these organizations. In pockets, you do see some real time behavior, if you will. The cloud strategies are not as mature, and your existing data center infrastructure doesn't actually put you in a very competitive position to leverage AI and some of the compute hungry AI that you see these days in the market. So the vendor lock-in and platform sprawl also is actually a huge issue. One of the things that we talked about earlier as well, Karan, was this whole notion of rationalization, right? So lack of rationalization of your assets that hold your organizational context is not going to help you drive to your aggressive AI ambitions. It's really key to simplify, standardize, and rationalize, and then actually get your data to be AI ready, so to speak. That's only when you can really harness significant value out of AI.
That's a really interesting point. And again, one of those responses are super rich. We probably could have a whole different session on this and a whiteboard session for that matter. You mentioned the rationalization one, which is a very interesting conversation we're literally having across our client base and folks in the industry, which is you've got this rationalization is high on the agenda. Your CEO, CTO, CFO, CIO, they're all onto it, like, okay, nothing shall enter. But then on this side, you've got an opposite. So push and pull, the opposite of, hey, we got to invest heavy on AI. We can't be behind. Notwithstanding the underlying data platform architecture challenges that we have aggregated over a period of time. So that is a really interesting mix that we're seeing. I think it's still early days in terms of
Yeah.
that challenge, but we're certainly that resonates. We're certainly seeing that across
Mhm.
as one of the rising trends, the push and pull between rationalization and AI investment.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sanjay, for joining me today. For the interviews and insights, please do visit cdomagazine.tech. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.